Did I send you? Article about.
Yeah, sorry. And I love you.
Yeah. Don't got it.
It's so hard to make that happen remotely. Remote agriculture.
I wanted to solve it together. What was that? And then we'll see what that does. I think that's a whole big story. I get to going to build a whole military academy. I'm starting that focus. 3 years in my this 2010 very apart. Military out. So for the class. Hey, how are you all? I'm good. You good? Almost all. Just kidding. I've got several. You grew up in Roanoke? Doesn't have kind of go over there. And well, they was love you. Their own stuff. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And that change before you
Can you see me, Allie?
One second. Yes, I can see you.
I'm not even showing up on my, here.
It's strange because even my image is like that I normally see myself. I'm not seeing that, and I don't see any setting changes I can make to affect it, but it shouldn't affect you in person, right?
Check 1, 2, 3.
I hear you just fine.
All right. Well, there I am. Huh, that's weird.
Yeah, normally it gives a simultaneous. But like I said, to the viewer, I'm seeing both the screen share when you have it up and you. So that's a pretty bird.
Are you seeing the black screen now?
Yeah.
All right, 15 seconds. We're going to get started here in a second. So if you want to make your last, whatever you need to do, get started here.
Good day, everyone. I'm Allie Donaldson. My family and I operate a independent humanitarian volunteer group that we call the Regenerative Project. Basically, we ask how can we help to anyone who shows up with a concern, a question, or a challenge. While much of our time is focused in Central America, where we travel between jungle villages supporting people with pain and injuries, we have also had hundreds of conversations with farmers around the world about everything from their health issues to difficulties with their farm. Almost every farmer I've spoken to has an overlap of the same troubles. Their expenses of both time and money are high. Their revenue comes under various and sometimes unknown threats, and the wellness of their plants needs nearly constant attention. Many farmers have heard about the health concerns directly associated with what they spray on their crops, but without a clear path forward, they will repeatedly use those products until they find a better way. They will prioritize buying these products only because it's a system that they recognize and they know how to use, even if it doesn't support the majority of their long-term goals. Because farmers have to do whatever it takes to keep their yields consistent so they can accommodate their expenses throughout the seasons, and because they usually have sunk a lot of time and money on equipment and materials, making changes to their setup feels like an overwhelming challenge to many. My job has been to help them find a better way forward with a do what you can with what you have where you are perspective. And I try to step into their shoes and recognize the lived experiences of their day-to-day life. We focus on natural and locally available materials to replenish and stabilize the soil and form solutions based on what individual farmers have tangible access to. We create customized approaches that help develop better balance in their farming practices. When I learned about the free product system that this network is currently experimenting with, it piqued my interest, primarily because it is by farmers for farmers. It is addressing the needs of the soil and the plants and encouraging better immunity for the entire farm. And it can be fine-tuned to address unique challenges instead of pursuing outright eradication, which tends to be more expensive and causes a lot more problems. And it fits into my desire to support the wellness of farmers, families, and communities by offering practical guides for farming in a more responsible and plentiful manner without disrupting their routines or needing new equipment. Your farm is a complex and alive piece of the planet. It doesn't only bear your name, it bears the results of generations of farming activity, often where only one type of crop was planted at a time. This form of farming is referred to as monoculture farming. And while it has been the backbone of America's farming industry, it's causing a lot of challenges for the farmers who use it and for the environment around them. Because this type of farming depletes nutrients from the soil, we've done crop rotations, sprayed fertilizers and nutrients, we've met swarms of pests and imbalances, and primarily all of this is because we just don't have the biological components to help keep those factors in check. Through my research, I've discovered that plants which have a regular source of nutrients have a healthier immune system. Much like humans, Having their health needs met is equal to having stronger health. With good health, these plants are capable of living more harmoniously and responding to biological threats in effective ways that keep these threats in greater balance. These plants also produce higher yield and healthier, more nutritious produce. So the question for me becomes, how do we create healthier farms while still utilizing systems that farmers understand, which are convenient, accessible, and will not only ultimately save them money, but will minimize their need for endless products and expenses or unhealthy temporary solutions? I believe this network is addressing this question head on. Utilizing the current practices most farms in America are already accustomed to, the agri-harvest system harnesses the immense benefits of magnesium hydroxide in nanoplatelet form, alongside NutriPlant 643 and deer repellent. It supplies a robust 360-degree support system to your plants. This setup aims to create better balance in your plants and soil. It allows for the use of your current equipment and protocols and decreases the need for harmful additives while increasing the 360-degree health of your pots, fields, and orchards. While we won't make promises that you'll never again have troubles, we do believe that by engaging with our network and utilizing these methods, you'll see a dramatic increase in the health, wellness, and yield of your plants. And we've got scientific results alongside actual real-life field studies to support this belief. The people here at New Water Farms are just one of many locations that have been testing this system. I'd like you to hear a bit from the people who manage their crops and develop their farming practices. They'll tell you what they've done in the past, how they've been supported and challenged by their old practices, and how the agri-harvest system is changing the lives of their plants and their produce.
Guys, thank you very much. I think I know all of you, and we've been through this several times. We do have some updates and recaps and new information to share with you this morning, but thank you for being here. Let me make sure this is all still working correctly. All right. Second. Allie, am I still alive?
Yep.
Woo! Finally, after 1 year, I got it figured out. Yeah. So you guys, hopefully you can quote this back when someone asks you what you're doing. But this is I think the journey that we've all been on, no matter where you are in the ag space, small gardener, big producer. I think that what I love about being in this place, not New Water, but in the agriculture sector, is it's a constantly learning and evolving experience, both personally and for what we're doing here. And I think the day that it becomes boring and old and same old, that's probably when I'm going to check out, because to me, this is really life-giving. And the more that I see the intersections of parts of my life, activity and how I cook and eat and treat people and the spiritual part of it, how it's all just kind of, these are all probably in our culture, these are all separate bins that people would put things in. But as we see this, things coming together in a common intersection, it just brings, to me, it brings more life for me personally, and those that are involved here, especially at New Water. But this is a quote that Allie says, the seeds that we plant to build community are just as sacred as the seeds we plant in the ground. And so when we can begin to decompartmentalize and really see everything as sacred and holy, our lives change, and you all know that. So this is really important foundation for what we're doing here. So really, this network, 360 Living Soil Alliance. I love every word in that name. This is not to think like Shaquille O'Neal years ago said he had turned his life around and he had changed everything 360 degrees, which means, wait, you're still going in the same direction. You didn't really change anything, did you? But I love the fact that it's the holistic approach to this, and it's not just to grow great plants and great produce. It really goes farther than that. It goes to people and communities, and really a regenerative community is one that's reestablishing and rebuilding itself. And we're going to do that through resilient agriculture. If you know, I looked up the word resilient last night just to make sure I knew exactly what it said. But think of resilient is it's a strong system that's able to reestablish itself in the face of adversity. So stresses, it could be any kind of stress or any kind of challenge from the outside or the inside. So we say, you're a resilient person. That means you've rebounded from something that's tough that a lot of people may. And so resilient agriculture is we have all these stresses, right? Whether it's weather or economics or forces of whatever, we want this agricultural system that we're building to be able to survive those attacks. And so that's going to also move forward into establishing more of a regenerative community. So this is really about, I say, it's about the reestablishing of relationships, whether it's us to God, to ourselves, to the earth, and to people. That's what this is about. And so that's why we're here. So, I would say David Montgomery and Ann Bilkley wrote this book, What Your Food Ate. And the premise of this is how we treat the land affects how it in turn treats us. And so one of the switches in my life was, I'm not going to live off the land. I'm going to live with the land. I'm going to live in harmony. I'm going to take my cues from nature and line my life and my practices up with what we know to be the truth now. I mean, you can fight it and you can combat it and we can control it. And, I learned years ago there's a difference between domination and domineering, dominate and domination. There's a difference in that. And so, but it really all begins in the soil. And so much so in 1937 on the heels of the Dust Bowl, Franklin Roosevelt wrote all the governors. And so we got a crisis here. And the letter led off with a nation that destroys its soil destroys itself. So those are things that we're seeing now. Small communities, even our own systems and our own health. There's just practices that have been happening in the last probably century that are leading us to destruction. Bobby Kennedy said yesterday in a speech that currently, if we keep doing what we do in agriculture, we've got 60 cycles left, 60 years left. I'll be gone. You're probably still going to be here, possibly, but 60 years is not a long time, really. So I don't know if that's true, but still, it should be a wake-up call to us that we are headed down an upward path. And a lot of these comes from our practices that we adopted in the name of efficiency and mechanization, industrialization of an industry that used to be the majority of small farms. It's interesting in like our rural county here in Tallapoosa County, you drive around and you see old homesteads, old home sites. There's a pecan tree, a walnut tree, a muscadine vine. You could tell they had a garden somewhere. There's probably a well. So they had a contained system. So people provided for themselves. With the urbanization, you've got bigger requirements to bring food in. And now we can eat, we can eat bananas year round. We can eat apples year round. It used to be we ate seasonally. What was there on the farm or at the home is what we ate. But this mechanization, industrialization has led to practices that, they're efficient. You can produce a lot of things. But what led to was over tillage of breaking up the soil. Talked to some of my friends down in Auburn last week in the agricultural department. And he said, Alabama's done a really good job of removing the moldboard plow over the last 100 years. So you don't see a lot of people deep plowing the fields anymore. And he said, because the farmers realized that created erosion, they were going to lose their soil. So kudos to the farmers. They figured it out quickly that, hey, we're killing ourselves here. So over-tilling, so that's, any kind of tillage. Monoculture crops, not mimicking nature, but just large fields of a single crop. Toxic chemicals in the name of science and all that. We got this now, the dependency on chemistry. It's not a bad thing. It's put all our eggs in one basket. I heard a stat yesterday that the highest incidence of cancer in America, get this, is in Iowa, one of the least populated states, because it's the corn crop. Yeah. So that's a little crazy. But also even in the livestock industry, we overgrazed our pastures down to nubs, and it's really harmed the land. So we've kind of done it to ourselves, right? So damage the soil. And obviously you can look at some signs of that. The decrease in nutrient density of food. You have to eat 5 apples today. 100 years ago, you could eat 1 apple to get the same amount of nutrition. We can sit down and eat a bag of potato chips, right? I can do it, but we're still hungry. So ultra processed foods, but even our natural kinds of foods pack less nutrient punch. You've got to eat more food to get the same calorie benefit, basically. And it's trained our brains that you got to eat to get that satisfaction feeling. The thing I learned a couple of weeks ago, I was looking at some documentaries. The tobacco industry is really not around that much anymore, right? I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, home of Philip Morris and all those guys. All my ancestors worked at the tobacco plants. My ancestors grew tobacco and they grew spirits. They they just were trying to survive, right? Anyway, but when the tobacco industries, they bought all the big food groups. Kellogg, they bought them all out, and they took their scientists that made cigarettes that taught people how to be addictive, and they moved them over to the food industry. And guess what they learned? We can get people addicted to food, right? So that they, yeah. So, but then the other things like just water retention, and we're seeing these big climate swings of. I mean, here we have 2 weeks of drought, 2 weeks of flood. I mean, it's just all over the place, and our soils are not full of water. They're dry and sparse, unless they got water. So we have less water retention in the soil. We have less earthworms. You go, what's the big deal with earthworms? Earthworms are the vultures and the buzzards of the soil. They eat all the bad stuff, and they can do that. Like a buzzard can eat E. coli, right? It doesn't hurt it. Earthworms are the same way. They filter the soil, and their castings, their poop is beneficial to the soil. And we're seeing less resistance to drought. Like I said, these big swings in our plant systems are more susceptible to these stresses, and they're also producing less for the consumer. Increase in fruit and root rot. I mean, there's more diseases now than there ever been, and we've got more chemicals than we've ever had. And it's like, now you've got resistant strains of weeds to glyphosate. And I remember when it came out, man, it was the magic thing. I remember the day I worked for this guy. I was like 15. I worked for this guy at his house doing landscaping stuff, and he said, "Hey, I got this jug of weed killer. Just spray it, but don't spray it too close to the trees." And I worked probably 3 or 4 hours at his house, and I sprayed it. And by the time I left, everything was dead. Like, man, this stuff's amazing. It doesn't do that anymore. It might die, but it comes back with a vengeance, right? So there's all this resistance to these things, and it's the same thing with pesticides as well. More pest problems, more bugs. Plants aren't as healthy, wilting and leaf discoloration. So you've got the wrong nutrients being uptaken. You've got nutrient deficiencies in the soil. So all these problems that we've got. So so what do we do? Easy to champion the problem. And I think when I said back at the beginning is this documented Kiss the Ground, great quote, soil is the beginning of the quality of food. It all begins in the soil. And when people come here and they say, man, I ate your pickles, they're great. I said, it all started in the soil. That's where it comes from. So you got to have good soil. So how do we have healthy soil? How do we have good soil? So these are some basic concepts of regenerative agriculture. We've got to focus on building soil health and to use cover crops and compost and things that feed the soil we want to add. To minimize soil disturbance or minimize soil disruption. So that's where no-till came from. It's preserving that soil structure, the aggregation. There's times you may have to break up a hard pan, or there may be times you have to lightly till on the top. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the over practice of heavy. Forgot to do that part. Hang on one second. I'll keep going. I think a lot of it is just the same thing over and over and over again. It's going to destroy that soil structure. You're going to leave that soil there. When you plow, you're going to have carbon loss. A big rain comes, the raindrops actually compact the soil. So there's just lots of bad habits that we've been doing. And I think a lot of it is because it looks good. I mean, it's pretty if you plow that field and disc that field and make those weeds disappear, right? Scotty and I are starting to agree on some things here now. Liking it. we're learning a lot from each other. I had a friend in graduate school at Texas A&M, and he was from Iowa. He's working on a postdoc, and he said most of agriculture now is recreational plowing. Love to see that smoke coming out of the stack, and you're just riding through the field for no good reason at all, and it just make it look pretty. And I teased my neighbor about recreational mowing. It doesn't need cutting, but you're just out there on a lawnmower going back and forth. So, yeah. The minimization of synthetic inputs, so pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, and fertilizers. And I think some of the crisis we're seeing now in the fertilizer industry is like, there's got to be a better way. I mean, a lot of stuff wasn't planted this year. And they couldn't afford to fertilize. I mean, stuff tripled, quadrupled overnight, basically, and it really put some guys in a bad spot. And I hear it's going to be worse next year. So got to figure out something different. So one thing is to keep a living root in the ground year round, and that's important for photosynthesis. So those plants are doing what they're designed to do. They're capturing carbon and nitrogen out of the air, coming down to the plant in the photosynthesis cycle, and coming out, actually it's coming in root exudates back into the soil. So it's feeding the soil year round. And I've seen that here. We try in our spaces, our garden spaces, to keep a living root, and it has benefited the soil. But also crop rotation. Different plants have different needs throughout their cycle. It's important to move the plants around if you're gardening or farming, and also plant diversification. Yeah, like I said, different plants have different needs, and also different life cycles, and so just moving that around in the soil is helpful. I'm going to skip this part. I think you've all been on the farm, seen the farm, so I'm going to skip that. But this is what happens when somebody else makes the presentation. I don't know if I'm supposed to do something here or not. Or,
You can blame Mackie.
when you can grab the grasshopper, whatever he said in the movie, but yeah. So I thought I'd instead of teaching on a big topic, was just kind of recap some of the things over the months we talked about. And so just kind of some overview, but then there's one thing I really want to talk about at the end. So just regenerative agriculture. The classical definition is it's an approach. I say it's a practice because we can approach something and not embrace it, but it's putting things into practice, and it's focusing on soil health and ecosystem restoration. It aims to improve soil quality, increase biodiversity, and use water more efficiently. And I like that definition, but it's interesting to me. There's one thing that we're going, well, it didn't talk anything about production. It didn't talk anything about make more of this, make more of that. It really is building a foundation so these other things will happen. So you can think of generate. Now we're going to regenerate. So this is probably going back to something that happened earlier, right? And so how many of your grandparents or parents farmed or had a garden? That's everybody, right? Yeah, that's the way we grew up. We never bought a vegetable at the store. We had our own. My mom canned. So the key principle, this is the first one, is context. What is your particular context for what you're growing? Is it fruits? Is it trees? Is it vegetables? Where in the world are you? What growing zone are you? What's your soil type? What's your annual rainfall? What was there before? I mean, what are your goals? I mean, because this is not a band one size fits all. We can talk about tomatoes all day long right here in Dayville, Alabama, but if I went to Ethiopia, probably be a little bit different story, right? So you've got to know your context. So the other thing in the previous slide talked about soil disruption. So this is about minimizing soil disruption. And there's two ways to disrupt the soil. The first is physical. That's with a piece of equipment. And it could be anything. I mean, we disrupt the soil here with a handheld hoe. I mean, we're disrupting that soil structure. But deep plowing, deep tillage, a rototiller where you're just turning the stuff into basically like flour. It's so fine. That's a severe physical disruption. And that affects a lot of things. I mean, wind, water erosion, compaction, all the microbial stuff that's going on in the soil that's naturally occurring. I mean, you go into a forest and dig your handful, it smells different, and there you see little things happening. It's just really different. So that's physical disruption. But that's going to lead to biological disruption. I mean, that could be anything from spraying chemicals, synthetics, toxins. You're disrupting that mycorrhizal biologic function with microbes and bacteria and fungi, all those things that are going on in the soil. A teaspoon of soil has more microorganisms in it than your body, all of us combined, actually. I mean, it's just trillions of microorganisms in a teaspoon of soil. And so when we disrupt that, not just what's present in the soil, but how they interact with each other, that's a detriment to the soil health. So we're going to minimize that. We're going to maintain a living root in the soil, which I explained is important, not just for photosynthesis, but you've got something holding that soil together. Previous guy that worked here at New Water was all about making it pretty. And so he would go around the lake and spray a 3-foot band off the edge of the shore with glyphosate to kill the weeds and the plants. And you know, now you see about a 3-inch drop in the soil because it washed out. So we're losing our shoreline because there's nothing holding it together. So that's, you know, another good reason to keep a root in the soil all the time. Covering bare soil. So we call it armoring the soil. You know, soil wants to cover itself. You scrape a patch of dirt off, all the stuff on top, in a couple of weeks you're going to have weeds, right? It's going to want to cover itself. And so a couple things that does is, you know, it minimizes the vapor loss, it cools the soil down, and obviously holds the soil together. So what's a weed? We had a discussion with our interns last week. What's a weed? What's a weed, y'all? Well, if you want to say aggravating, my wife says it's the difference between a weed and a flower is in the marketing. And the classical definition of a plant in an unwanted location. I mean, I say, look at that lawn out there. That's beautiful, isn't it? We love that. But if we put that over there in the vegetables, that'd be a weed. So it's where it is, yeah. So maximizing biodiversity and crop rotation. So if we maximize, and we found this to be true here in New Water, when we begin to maximize the plant families and species that we have, we automatically see other things like birds and bees and butterflies. And these are predator bugs, good bugs and bad bugs, but with our increased biodiversity, the good ones are going to outnumber the bad ones. Nature's going to come back in balance when we get that biodiversity maximized. It's helpful for the soil, it's helpful for the other plants. And actually, to me, it's pleasing to the human. I mean, it's fun to walk out there and there's 20 different things as opposed to, I'm like, that's boring. Anybody can do that. But anyway. And then I said crop rotation. So it's not just growing the same thing in the same spot every time. That sometimes is a little bit of a challenge with us with our fruiting crops. We have rows of blackberries. It's been the same way for the last 15 years. And so, but you know, but from a vegetable or a non-fruit, you kind of have to, we can't move the blueberries every year, right? We could, but yeah. And the one that we don't necessarily, we're confined by our lease agreement with this property is the integration of livestock. So if you think back to the big bison herds in the Midwest in the 1800s, or probably longer before that, but those animals, those big herd animals you see in Africa, they're moving throughout the field and they're chomping the grass and stomping it and moving the manure and the urine into the soil. I mean, it's simulating really kind of what agriculture tried to simulate. So they're incorporating that biomass into the soil and they're moving on. They don't just stay in a confined area and basically kill it. So the integration of livestock. Gabe Brown says if you're doing bees and butterflies, you got animals integrated. I'm saying we got deer and geese here, so we got it going on. So you know, check all the boxes. Yeah. So just some key principles. Kind of backing up a little bit. We've talked some in this group about stewardship, and a lot of times stewardship or custodian. I'm a custodian. I don't own it, but I take care of it. Really, when we begin to look at this, we're placed the very first people, right, on the creation narrative in the Bible, they were gardeners. They were charged to take care of it. He didn't say you own it. He said, I need you to take care of this. I'm passing the baton to you. I've created this. It is good. Keep it going. And they mucked it up, right? So, but when we begin to see this as it doesn't matter what your resource is. It could be a flower pot. It could be your backyard. It could be a garden. It could be your neighborhood. It could be an operation. When we see that as I'm going to manage this in such a way that it's better when I leave it. I'm going to leave more than I take. I'm going to reinvest. I'm going to put more back in. I'm going to share this. I'm going to make this excellent. And it's not so we can say, good job, Robert. Good job, Leo. It looks really pretty. I think it's our responsibility. And that means I need to know my land. I need to know what the needs are. And I need to provide that to make it flourish. Not in such a way that it's a selfish motive, but it's a sharing. So, you know, a lot of people come here on this property. And story, we had Fort Benning flight school jump here on Tuesday. And they said, we've got several dozen lakes between the Fort Benning and here, but we want to come here because this is such a different place. And people come here and say, there's something different about here. There's God's presence, and there's just, I mean, it's so, it's just really nice. It's quiet and all that stuff. That's because we really feel a responsibility to appropriately steward it, and that's to share it with others. So I think that viewpoint changes things when you move from what am I going to get off of this, what am I going to get out of it, and turn it back around and say, what can I put into it, what am I going to share with others? That just changes everything. So the next point about the regen agriculture is carbon. And carbon, Gabe Brown says carbon is the currency of agriculture. So what does that mean? I'll talk a little bit about this in a second, but just remember that if you can remember carbon is the currency, then you're way down the road. Carbon's really, really important for several things, and we'll cover here in a second. But also, I think it's taking the long and the short view. I've heard talks about the chemical dependency. And the guy said it's just so easy to reach into the cabinet and grab that cocktail. It's just so easy, and it was always branded as quick, and it was just easy. And that's kind of a short view, instant gratification, if you will. It's kind of like my buddy likes to mow the grass, turn around, look behind him, and go, "Hey, look at that line." That's instant gratification. I think a lot of times that chemical dependency created that. It's quick, it's instant, and I can do it once, and boom, I can go on to something else. That's a very short view. I mean, there is a short view of taking, we're prioritizing the steps here for immediate change, but also it's a long view. The change for us here from chemicals and synthetics, it's not. There's been a little bit of dip down in our production, but they say that transition to off ramp is anywhere from 3 to 7 years to go from that to something different. Some people say decades. I mean, it's a slow process, but if you take that long view and you stay committed to it, you may be preparing for the person coming behind you, or you're creating a legacy, but you're making an impact. And I told my wife last night, she asked me a question about something ag-related. I said, it was something about the plants in our yard. They don't look that great. I said, well, we just planted them last year. You got to be patient. Of course, I could have said, you could put some stuff on it and, the magic sauce. Yeah. And this is another one I just started thinking a lot about. Are we in this to cooperate with nature, or are we going to compete? And that's things like companion planting, and are there other plants that I can plant to go alongside that influence one another for the benefit? It might not look pretty. It changed my maintenance practice, but that's cooperation as opposed to that's sucking the life out of that plant, so I'm yanking it out. Allie would say eradication. But yeah, so I mean, is it cooperating? Are we cooperating, or are we competing? And we could even say, are we competing with each other? This is a network about cooperating and helping each other. When someone needs help over here, we're going to push resources over here and help them be successful. Interesting enough, I heard a talk about this is what's really happening in the farming community again. We all probably knew when we were younger, there was farmers helped each other. And it was so easy if there was any kind of crisis. My combine burned up, Joe had a heart attack, got to get his crop in, and they all just go over there and do it. And they've always held that belief. I think that's a core competency of the farming community, which I really like, is they will respond to a crisis. But they said what happened is the relationships started diminishing to where, yeah, they would still respond to crisis, but they weren't helping each other. They were in competition with each other. And so that's changing. That's a really cool thing happening in our farming landscape across America. They're starting to help each other once again because they realize when one is successful, we're all successful, and one fails, we all fail. So I love that about regenerative agriculture. Just as a reminder, the NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, these are vital main components of fertilizer. So nitrogen, obviously it's about plant growth. If you want a lot of vegetative growth, you dump the nitrogen on it, right? That's why these pasture guys or cattle guys, that's why they love raw chicken litter. I mean, you put it on there, and in 2 or 3 days after rain, it is lush. Of course, after 2 weeks, it's brown again. But nitrogen is for vegetative growth. It's a vital component of chlorophyll, the photosynthesis cycle, DNA, amino acids. So yeah, energy production and protein creation. So it is something that's necessary. You can't just like, I'm not going to put any nitrogen on it. Phosphorus is energy transfer, also photosynthesis, some DNA, RNA formation, strong root development, robust stems, the creation of flowers, fruits, and seeds. So that's kind of, you can see that as that plant starts to grow, you're putting a strong foundation down, but you're also pushing it towards production. So the flower, the plant, that's what it wants to do, is to multiply itself. The challenge we have here around here in a lot of Alabama is we are inundated with phosphorus. Our soils are rich in phosphorus. Our analysis shows us we're elevated extremely high and very high in phosphorus in our soils here. It doesn't go anywhere. It will leach out in the rainfall, and you're going to wait. You're on the lake, it rains, phosphorus goes in the lake, right? Then you have algae blooms in your. So it's a big issue. So too much of a good thing is actually not a good thing. And then potassium is for plant growth. Look at this: 60 enzymes in photosynthesis, water, protein synthesis and water regulation through the stomatal opening and closing. That's the flower opening and closing. So here's the three really key elements of NPK. So that's, you see on the fertilizers, the numbers, they're in this order: NPK. That's the percentages of that fertilizer. So a triple 13, a blended fertilizer, has 13% of these and some other stuff. Usually some kind of inert ingredient. Chicken manure is usually kind of a 4-3-3. It's a low on the thing. But here's the key: you want to put the word available in front of these. Available nitrogen, available phosphorus, available potassium. What's available to the plant? We were talking earlier about some things, and a lot of times you just put the stuff out there, and it might not be available. It's a waste. You're just dumping. You might as well be lighting $10 bills on fire because you put this out on a thing, but it's not available to the plant. And there are issues that tie up these things. I'll talk about those in a second. So interesting. We think that pests like bugs show up randomly or whatever. Typically, what the research says, when you have excess of these nutrients, it throws the system out of balance, it stresses the plant, the bugs show up. So a lot of excess nitrogen creates issues on the leaf of the plant, which attracts the bugs. That's what they're there for, unprocessed sugars. That's what happens. So how do we avoid pests with the right amount of fertilizer? Well, I believe you need to focus on the soil. What's in the soil? Is it a balanced environment for that plant? So you need to have an integrated pest management program, an IPM. So this is, you can always, if you go to the farmer's market and you can say, hey, what's your IPM? Which means, what are they putting on the food in the soil that you're getting ready to eat, right? And just see if they know the answer to that. You don't have to say, well, do you use synthetic fertilizers? Just ask them, hey, what's your IPM? And just stand there and see what they say. No question. So really, it's important to know what's going on in your soil. We recommend, at the minimum, the soil test is available through Extension Service. It's $10. They'll tell you your P and K and your magnesium, and they'll make recommendations. The Haney test is very complex. It's 15 pages of analysis. It's about $65 versus $10, but it'll tell you all kinds of things: carbon to nitrogen ratios. It'll tell you your organic matter. It'll actually calculate an equivalent nitrogen value for what you've got in your soil. It says here we have a credit. We're in the positive side of things. So like our last test in our garden, the recommendation was 20 pounds of nitrogen per acre, which is like a couple handfuls, right? So because of some other things we had going on in the soil, but yeah, we're building our soil health. But the Haney test, if you really want to get nerdy, I would recommend it. At least do it once. But a soil test is a kind of a benchmark. It's going to tell you year over year what you got going on. If you just did it one time, that's not a good reference. So you want to test your soil. Here's the other thing: healthy plants are not as attractive to pests as our stressed plants. Think about I've seen this, the herd of deer running through the woods. Which one are they going to go after? No equaling the one in the back, right? Yeah, so it's the same thing. Bugs are attracted to stress plants. They're typically not 95%. They're not going after the healthy stuff. They're going after the weak ones. So yeah, our recommendation is to plant a diverse plant species families, and not just species, but rotate your crops. This is a great hip pocket number for you to have. For the good bugs, the bad bugs is 1 to 1,700. So for every bad bug, there's 1,700 good bugs. So you think about pesticides. What do? They kill them all. Yeah. So yeah, there are very few targeted pesticides out there. And even predatory insects, we kind of think, oh my gosh, there's a wasp in the garden. I was eating aphids. So yeah, so you got to really look at what's there. One thing we found here is trap crops. I mean, they're coming, bugs are coming. So plant something that's a distraction. They go over there. We found knockout roses to be a great thing. I mean, you could propagate knockout roses all day long. And guess where the Japanese beetles are going? To the knockout roses. They're not coming to your beans and your blackberries. We've seen that. We've found hardly any Japanese beetles in the garden and our fruiting crops, but they're all over the yeah. But also you can do it with different herbs, interplant things like basil with your tomatoes or marigolds. That deters them, but also attracts them to come too. So there's some easy things you can do, and those things are pretty. They had some beauty to that. So all right, let's talk about carbon real quick. Soil has the largest portion of active carbon on the earth. So again, in the photosynthesis, plants take, no, it's the carbon cycle and the photosynthesis cycle. Plants take the carbon from the air, convert it to plant tissue, and some of that's returned back into the ground. So I remember when I was in college in the 80s, I was agriculture engineering and went to a conference, and it was up in the Midwest, I think, in Chicago. And there was a guy, he was a little out of the box, and he was getting on to the farmers about disking their fields in the fall and let it lay fallow until they planted. And he showed a picture in, Midwest, that soil's like black. And it's black because of carbon, right? And he's going, you're losing all your carbon. And they were like, well, so what? What's the big deal? And now we know what's happened. That was money flying out back into the atmosphere as what? CO2. So now we have greenhouse gases and all that stuff. And that's just, we help create some of that. But carbon is critical to soil function and productivity. It's a main component of and a contributor to healthy soil conditions. So this is kind of where we're getting the biologics here. It's and so uh, it's very important for us to manage the soil health, to manage how we do the soil, because if we just leave bare soil out there, we're going to lose all it. We're going to lose the carbon in the soil. This is freebies. But if we have plants there, it's actually pulling the carbon. Carbon sequestering is the real term for it. It's pulling the carbon out of the air back into the plants, back into the soil. And you think about even the live and the dead plants, they're going to contain that carbon when they die, they decompose. It's free fertilizer, y'all. So one thing to look at in the carbon piece is the soil organic matter. And you've heard me say this, 1% organic matter will take a 1-inch rainfall, which is 26,000 gallons of water in an acre. And we have over 7% organic matter. So we've got a lot of organics in the soil, which is feeding things like earthworms and the fungi and the bacteria and the mycorrhizal networks, but also it's feeding the plants, and also it's retaining the moisture. We could take a heavy rain. It'd have to be a monsoon before we'd have runoff. Now our pathways are compact. They don't have all the organic matter yet. We're getting there. And so they can be mushy, but we can go work the garden after 3 or 4 inch rainfall, like the next day. And that's, before you couldn't even walk out there. We just weren't doing things right. So the soil structure is going to improve through carbon aeration, water drainage retention. We've got things like obviously erosion, but even nutrient leaching, because when that water infiltrates, it's not running off, it's not carrying things with it. So that's a good thing. So organic carbon is very important to chemical and biological activity in the soil. It's going to promote the mycorrhizal fungi, the decomposition of bacteria, which are going to convert things into plant nutrients for the uptake. So carbon, Gabe Brown is right, carbon is the currency. Now the Haney test will tell you all those numbers, and it's kind of fun to look at. So I will tell you the carbon to nitrogen ratio for vegetable plants is 1:1. In a forest, it's 14:1. There are different things you can cover crop with that can promote those ratios. Things like, think about wheat straw. If you put wheat straw in your garden, it lasts for a year, right? That carbon to nitrogen ratio is like 80 something. So the higher the carbon to nitrogen ratio, the less decomposition you'll have. Things like mustard is 14-1, but really the ideal number is 24-1 is the number you want. So it's finding those right composting, mulching things that you can do. I like the weed straw because I only had to buy. I had to buy it. I had to buy it once, right, for the whole season. If you bought something like, in the low 20s, you'd be putting it out there all the time. So you got to just find what works right for you. But it not only is a mulch, but it's feeding that soil. Now, one thing that I will tell you is, so you're going to go, a lot of people get wood chips and till it up into the soil, right? That's a bad idea because it robs the soil of the nitrogen because it's going to decompose. So if you put things in the soil, it's going to decompose. It's going to rob that carbon and that nitrogen that the plant needs. So you got to be careful implementing organics into your soil. So what we do here is, like, we have our market garden. We mulched our tomatoes with green wood chips. The guy brought them. We put them out the next day. The wood guy, the tree guy. But we didn't incorporate it into the soil. It's at the soil surface. So the only nutrient robbing is right at that soil surface. It's not in the soil where the plants are taking. Now this fall, when we flip that bed, we're gonna put it into the soil because by next spring it will have decomposed and we got all this organic matter in the soil. We'll cover crop it with some different species to add to that as well. But that's a really quick way to boost your soil. But don't take the wood chips and till it in and plant your plant because you're going to be robbing that plant of a lot of good nutrition. So yeah, carbon's a currency. So high levels of soil carbon, larger percent of organic matter, increases surfaces also, which these nutrients can bind to. So things like calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, all these micronutrients cling to the soil because of the carbon. That's another factor. It's a binding factor, just like the magnesium is a mono bonding layer that other things will attach to. So that's what the carbon does in the soil. It's stored. It contributes to things like soil aggregation, which is pore space, particle size of soil. It promotes that. Obviously, acid infiltration, and it helps with the soil, the root growth and the mycorrhizal networks. And the mycorrhizal networks extend the roots way beyond what the root is. They're microscopic fibers out into the soil. They'll penetrate deep, deep, deep. So that's how the plants are able to capture more waters because those mycorrhizal networks and those fungi, hyphae, those extension of the root tips, penetrate farther in, much more surface area, so they're able to pull the water up. That's because of the carbon. So yeah, it's a great feedback loop in that. So here's a little picture maybe I can leave you with a little bit. Soil health indicators. So we've got 5 things on there. Soil pH, which is important for whatever you're growing. Our blueberry is like 4.5 to 5. We're in the mid 6s. We're trying to adjust that. We think we'll have better, healthier plants. Obviously, the presence of earthworms, soil texture, and we talked a little about what's your soil type. Sand, 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 clay, and silt. That's what we're talking about. I'm sorry. Yeah, your soil texture is very important. And your nutrient level. What's in your soil? And the really cool thing you can do is you can take your plant and send the plant leaves off to Auburn University here in and they can tell you what's in the plant. So last year I want to know, okay, I got what's in the soil, I wanted what's in the plant, and actually they lined up. So that was a very good thing. So again, nutrient availability is a key word. And obviously organic matter. The one thing I don't like about this slide, I wish all the circles would have touched each other. I think it would have made more sense because if I don't have any earthworms, I've got some other stuff going on, which is going to make me look at, you got any organic matter? Or if my pH is off, the nutrient levels are going to be off. They're all, it's not linear. It's not this linear thing. They're all really, really important. They all affect one another. So it's not just, I'm going to go measure my pH and be done with it. You got to look at these other things. And some of these are indicators. Last year we had hardly any earthworms. This year we were out there with a group of middle schoolers, and I wanted to show them. I was going to show them just a soil profile. I dug it up, and that thing was full of earthworms. So we ate a few of them just to help our gut. They had never done that before. Yeah. So there are indicators, but also these are really important. Not hard to figure out what you got because you want to, I just sit back to context. So I want to ask y'all, so here's a couple of stresses I put down. This is kind of where we are. Obviously, it's hot as all get out, and it's just July. So it's really hot. I mean, Leo asked me that. He sent me a text late at night and said, hey, should we put some shade cloth over the tomatoes? So anything, I think over 85 degrees, tomatoes stop producing tomatoes and they kind of go in shutdown mode, and we're 100 degrees. So there's some things you can do to alleviate the heat. Shade cloth, obviously mulches and compost, maintain a correct soil moisture, and that's going to do a couple things. It's going to cool the soil down. Obviously, water's going up, nutrients are going up, so it's really important. But it can be a way to address heat. Water's an issue. Is it too much? Is it too little? Last year, one of my tomato failure stories is I left the sprinkler on for 6 hours one day, and all my tomatoes split. Right, too much water at the wrong time. Yeah. Um, but yeah, but you can put all the water on in the world that you want, and if you don't have a way to keep that water down, you're going to lose it. So evapotranspiration. So obviously increase organic matter, cover that soil with your mulches or compost. But yeah, consistency in irrigation. We prefer drip irrigation as opposed to spraying it all over top of the plant. You're going to create some fungal issues for yourself. But if you can get away and put that water right down near the root where you can. And we do emitters. Our emitters are basically a gallon an hour, just drip, slow drip. It's not just flooded, so it has a chance to infiltrate down. Bugs and pests are another summer stress. I've talked about that plant diversity, trap crops, get your soil health going in the right direction, the right nutrient at the right timing. And then dormancy is important too, because things will nest, things like squash vine borers, different caterpillars, they love some of this stuff. So a good thing can become bad. So you got to consider what your dormant season and what you're doing to promote. You don't want those guys in your neighborhood, right? So you don't want them to camp out during the wintertime. So you got to look at that. And then weeds, the plants in the unwanted locations. Obviously covering the soil with compost and mulch would smother them. The biggest thing we found is don't let that thing seed out, because guess what? You got 1,000 of them next year, and by gosh, don't till it under. Just plant it. Unless it's job security for you, you might want to consider it. But then one lesson, and it was here and at Oak Hill Heritage Farms, is for cover crops, how are we going to terminate those? I thought I had it licked because the species I bought was going to summer kill because of the heat. Well, it seeded out before it summer killed, and we have a beautiful stand of wheat in our cornfield. It wasn't supposed to happen. So you got to figure out when you do these cover crops, you got to figure out how you're going to terminate them. So it's not just a one bam and done. I didn't put time on here. Time is a stress because we got a lot going on now. If you're growing anything, there's never enough time, and you got to learn to prioritize. So that's another stress. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's tons of other stresses, but that's a couple of that we got going on here and some of the solutions. Let me finish with this. The entry point is healthy soil. It all begins in the soil. And we say healthy soils create healthy plants. Healthy plants create healthy food. Healthy food creates healthy people and healthy communities. And what is we're stewarding to build healthy soil. So this is not a linear thing. To me, it's cyclical. And there's a short-term part of this and there's a long-term part of this. But I think when we invest in our soils, that these other things are going to happen. We really focus on the soil and doing these things to promote soil health. We're going to have healthy people and healthy communities. And that's to me, that's what regenerative agriculture is all about. So that's all I have to say about, sorry to take so, man, that was long. Sorry, but I could talk about each one of those slides all day long. You want me to. So I'm going to get Sky to come up and Q&A. Oh, any questions or observations or helpful hints?
I've added shade cloth recently. Never before. I cannot believe how much cooler it is under that shade cloth.
So Paul says he added shade cloths this year, first time in his life of farming, and can't believe the difference in the temperature. And I guess the plant is appreciative.
I just did it last week, so don't really know about that yet.
I know the high tunnel guys grow a lot of tomatoes just for that very reason. The shade cloth as well as the precipitation not dousing the plant and washing the diseases down the plant. So it's twofold. Any other comments or questions or suggestions? Well, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Scotty Mangrum, our fifth generation farmer and my partner in the heirloom plant activity. All right. All right. So I think I know everybody here, but again, I'll introduce myself. I'm Scotty Mangrum. I am a fifth generation farmer. My dad taught me the old way of farming, which was mostly monoculture farming. Plow it up, turn it under, throw the fertilizer to it, and let's go. As I was in my childhood, we grew watermelons. We had about 40 acres of water, 30 to 40 acres of watermelon per year, and we sold those at farmers markets in Atlanta, Columbus, Montgomery, places like that. My dad was very good at growing watermelons, so I tried to strive to be as good as him, and I've never been able to be that good at growing watermelons. But now I think I've got it. So we're going to get on into my presentation. In 2025, we tested several products and methods in farming. This is some kale that we grew. And I grow into this field every time. So these plants came out of the same 6-cell pack. We just bought them at the feed and seed store. We treated the one on the right with the magnesium, the MgOH2, nanoplatelet magnesium, and the NutriPlant 643. The one on the left, we just treated it with a typical granular 13 fertilizer.
What do you mean by treated?
When we planted it, we applied it to them. All right. So when I say treated in the for the magnesium, that's what we call that. We call that a treatment, and it's just applying the fertilizer because it's a foliar applied fertilizer. So we foliar apply it versus granular mixing it into the soil. That covers. All right. Okay. So you can see the plants on the right are significantly larger than the plants on the left. This is just a little example of what we can do here. Same test, same age plants. I need you to remember all these plants are the same age, same exact age. This is cabbage that we treated the same way. We applied the same fertilization process to both. They are the exact same age plant. The cabbage on the right is extremely larger than the one on the left. As a matter of fact, that cabbage on the right, it was a head about that big at this picture. You could potentially eat that. As it grew, it outgrew the other one. I'm going to say 2 to 1, 50% increase in the time of maturity on that cabbage versus the one on the left. The one on the left just had to do it, on its own. The other one was, I won't say manipulated, but it wasn't manipulated. It was just given an opportunity to grow better, given an opportunity to take on 100% of what we were feeding it versus about 50 or 60%, which the other one was taking. Same soil types on both of these. All right, this is a Roma tomato that we treated, and all this was 2025. So we did the same testing this year. I didn't put any pictures in here for this year because it's exactly the same thing, except we did it with a different type of tomato this year. We did it with the Cherokee purple tomatoes, and whew, we got a big increase in those. And I think that's what we're going to have for lunch today. So again, same age plants, planted on the same day. The one on the right was treated with the cocktail. The one on the left, not treated. It was 13 fertilizer applied to it. And you can see the difference in the foliage on this plant. This was really right before bloom stage. So we had a lot of tomatoes come off these plants, by the way. I don't have a picture of that, but on a daily picking, we were picking probably 10 tomatoes off these plants, the treated ones. So this is a bell pepper. And so on our bell pepper plants, in this testing we did, we had one bell pepper plant that we literally pulled about 325. I actually just stopped counting about that point because there was no use in it. Peppers off this one plant now. Science and scientists
they'll all tell you that a pepper plant will grow, 10, 15 peppers, and that's it. Treating these pepper plants the way we've treated them, we're getting an increase in yield of probably 400% in that. I'm gonna say 400%. This is an I'd love to say every one of them get to be this size, but they don't. This was I kind of left it and let it grow. Now look at the color in that. So if you look at that color, that purple in there, you can see that is not something wrong with that plant. That is actually what that pepper plant, what that bell pepper does as it matures. The one on the left that was untreated, field planted, our control group. In our control group, we wound up with a blossom end rot, which took about 50% of the yield out of these peppers. That was, getting 10, 12 peppers per plant. So we lost about 6 of them to it. We probably more than that in some of them. And there was no way to control that other than put a bunch of fungicides on it and things like that. But blossom end rot really is a calcium deficiency. But once you get it, you're fighting it then. And we've actually run into that on some of our watermelons in 2026. I just noticed it the other day. So anyway, I'm going to get into this first. This is an aloe plant that Nick treated. The picture on the left that's pretty pitiful looking plant right there. It had it. A week later, when Nick went to California, when he came back a week later, this picture on the right is that same plant. It had bloomed. Now that aloe plant has like 4 blooms on it. So in between the two weeks from the time that we did our last presentation up at the Southern to now, it's got like 3 more blooms on it. And it's doubling in size. It's incredible how this stuff works. These are some peppers. I want you to notice this. This is all this year stuff. These are, I don't know what kind of peppers these are. Nick planted like 4 or 5 different types of peppers, varieties of peppers in our test bed that he's doing. But what I want you to see is, see the amount of fruit on this pepper plant? And then you look right there and you'll see blooms. And we don't see that. We don't see that in these pepper plants that aren't treated with this magnesium. That's correct. That's right. Well, I think these are both the same. These are both the treated plant. He just took 2 pictures of it, but I think he did it to get the blooms in there. But you can also see little baby peppers coming on that thing. So I think Nick had already picked about 15 or 20 off of this thing, and then he's probably picked it 2 more times since then, since this picture was taken, which has been about 3 weeks ago. So this thing is continuously producing fruit. This is some strawberries, and I don't know if you know about strawberries, but in Alabama in July, strawberries do not make it. All right. These are field planted strawberries, so he's got them in the ground, and they were treated. We see the same thing in all the testing we've done with strawberries. But the cool thing is, if you look at that, what the point of this picture is, you see those 3 strawberries? Well, that strawberry plant's not only alive in 85, 90-degree heat, it's also producing in that heat, which is, that's not a common thing for strawberries to do that. They really prefer a lot of more cooler weather. My strawberry plant that I've had for 3 years now, and this is the cool thing about this. So strawberry plants, I don't know if any of you guys know much about strawberry plants, but strawberry plants, when they get mature, they get ready to a berry, they don't really multiply from the seed as much as you would think they do. What they do is they'll put out a runner. They'll put out multiple runners. That runner will touch the ground, and where that runner touches the ground, new strawberry plants come. That's where we propagate that way on strawberry plants. Here's the cool thing. All right, so we treated my mother plant. We treated it. It did its thing. Delicious strawberries off of it. Nothing like what you get in the store. It put its runners out. We propagated from it, but we didn't treat All right, here's the cool thing. We didn't treat the propagation, but yet the propagation continued to grow. So it picked up that magnesium that the mother plant had and carried it into that baby. And it continued to grow and had the same heat tolerance and drought tolerances that we see in the mother plant. We see the same thing here. We see that the heat tolerance on these plants is incredible. All right, these are some sunflowers that Nick planted. I think these are Goliath sunflowers. And but here's the cool thing about this. These particular sunflowers are about 30 days ahead of where they're supposed to be. All right. So in a time frame from seed planting to now, these sunflowers are actually about 30 days ahead in growth. All right. That's a big deal, especially if you got a field full of them and you're farming them. These are some tomatoes that this is a cool picture now. You got to understand it. These are some tomatoes that he planted for the test garden. Now, the reason you don't see very many leaves on this is because we cut these leaves off to give the fruit. So the plant doesn't concentrate on trying to grow leaves. It concentrates more on growing fruit. Now, I want you to look at the fruit cluster here. All right. Look at that fruit cluster. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that far picture on the left, there's 6 in that cluster. 6 tomatoes in one cluster. All right. Up top, you see 1, 2, and then there's a bloom. All right. These tomato plants continuously bloom until the frost kills them. And I mean, they're picking tomatoes off of them right now. We don't have a fruit count yet, so we don't know exactly what we got on it because everything's in process here. And this is where I was going. This is where I step in here and say, all right, I've been doing this my whole life, and I've never seen anything like this before. So take a look at these watermelons. All right. So these watermelons now are reaching maturity. These watermelons are ripe at this point. Last week, Nick contacted me. He had cut one of them and showed me pictures of it. And this is what I found when I cut one of mine. We have 3 varieties of watermelons that we grow. We grow a Charleston Gray, a Congo, and a Jubilee. That's what my uncle used to grow Charleston Grays. My dad really didn't like Charleston Grays, but I wanted to carry on that whole family thing, so I planted Charleston Grays this year. Now, Charleston Grays are a little bit more susceptible to blossom end rot than the Congos and the Jubilees. However, they all are susceptible to it. But the incredible thing here is what we're seeing. So I want you to look at that far picture on the right. You see those melons on that vine? You see the different stages of those melons? You've got much more mature fruit. You've got a tiny one here, and you got blooms, blooms, blooms. All right. I don't care where you're at or what you're doing. When a watermelon matures on the vine dies. All right. In a field setting, the vine dies. Why is that? Okay, because when the plant itself will kill the vine off to support the fruit production. Does that make sense to everybody? So instead of that plant worrying about growing a vine anymore, because it's reproduced at that point. So on Jubilee watermelons, we typically see 3 to 5 watermelons per plant. All right. This is where it gets real critical here on what we're doing. What we see using our magnesium 643, our deer repellent, which is, it's all the cocktails, what I call it now. What we see is we have mature fruit. I'm talking about all the way mature fruit on a live vine. All right. On a live vine, we have all different fruit stages of new fruit on that same vine past those first melons, because that's how it works. They'll produce this one, it starts growing. It'll usually kill the vine off to support the 1 or 2 that it might have on that vine, typically 1, maybe 2. If you're really, everything's just perfect, there's a lot of conditions that has to do with growing watermelons. A lot of factors play into it. But if you're great at it, you probably grow about 8 per plant. So we are seeing that we have mature fruit, we have new growth throughout the process of growth, and we still have blooming on the end of the vine. So what we're knowing, what we see, what we're thinking, with the proper watering, continuing to feed these. Now you got to remember when you got multiple fruit on a vine, on a watermelon or any particular plant, you have to feed that thing, all right? Because if not, that plant will do what it's going to do. It'll concentrate all of that energy toward that fruit production, and it'll kill that vine off. So here's the cool thing about, I guess, for the fertilizer salesman in the room, the cool thing about it is you have to apply more, apply more, apply more. All right, we're applying an organic fertilizer, so we're not like throwing a synthetic fertilizer out here in the ground that's going to get in the water system and everything else. We added some other things to this, and I want to say this: we did add chicken manure to these watermelons, and Dr. Brandon's going to be speaking a lot more on that soon. That's all I'm going to say. It's kind of top secret right now. So anyway, but we did apply this chicken manure to these, which helped in the process. And we did have to super hit them with nitrogen. Okay, so nitrogen is very important in that process. So we had to really hammer them with nitrogen to get them to come to this point. And we're still having to fertilize them now as we go. In the field, we've got about 1,000 plants. The ones that we didn't lose due to heat stress, all of them were the same age. These in the little grow garden we have here, they did not get drought stress like the ones in the field did. So these matured a little bit faster because they didn't have to worry about water, while ours just kind of held their own and survived about 5-6 weeks with no water. These were watered every day. So, but now I've noticed that we've had so much rain lately that our fruit is actually catching up to these. So the other day I went out and cut a watermelon. I cut 3 off the most mature. My dad taught me the old thump method. There's 2 methods to know when a watermelon's right, but I use that one. Boom, I've taught my kids that one. They can pick a watermelon now. But I went out and picked the most mature, cut them, and we're probably about another week and a half out now on full maturity on these, and for them to be completely ripe. So everybody has eaten a watermelon that wasn't ripe. Who has eaten a watermelon that wasn't ripe? How'd it taste? Not too good. So here's the cool thing about these. When I cut it, it wasn't ripe, it wasn't mature, but it was sweeter than anything you can buy in a store. Anything you can buy in a store. So I can't wait to see what it tastes like when we're going to have people beating the door down wanting these watermelons. The most important thing to remember here is we're not going to just have one picking off this field. We are going to be able to continuously grow watermelons from now on the same vines, same plants, from now until the frost kills them. So we liable to have watermelons in October, which I don't mind because I love them. This was about a few, maybe 2 weeks later. Look at the size difference in that watermelon now. That's the same watermelon that Nick was showing you. It was as big as his hand, and no, it's a lot bigger than that now. These are our products that we use. I kind of want to get into the nuts and bolts of this a little bit. I usually use this table as an example, but now I've got a picture, thanks to my team back there. I'm just waiting on, so y'all saw what they did to Dr. Brandon, so I'm kind of waiting on mine to come up here. Oh, good. Okay, I'm spared this time. So what our MgOH2 is a magnesium hydroxide nanoplatelet. It's our preferred product for soil augmentation and nutrient supplement. It's a pH balancer. It balances the pH levels in the soil and the plants, accelerates growth. It does not dissipate. It does not just leave the soil. It's never going to come out of that soil unless that soil goes into a negative pH. That means you got to go out there with some type of acid to kill it, to degrade it. It reduces the need for microbials and pesticides. That's all right. What? Yep. All right. Our testing shows an increase of up to 65% in yields in certain plants. This is the cool thing. So this is the magnesium under an electron microscope. So if you look at that picture, you can see it looks like little wafers, right? It has a very flat surface on 2 sides and a very thin wall all the way around it. Now, Doc hit it a while ago when he said monolayer bonding. All right. What is so cool about this magnesium hydroxide in that nanoplatelet form is that so when we apply the 643 fertilizer with it and we mix it in the tank with it and the deer repellent, it bonds to that platelet. And what does that do? First of all, it helps us to be able to hold that fertilizer where it will not wash away or leach out or wash off the plant. Okay, and we get some in the soil anyway, because we always go along and do a soil drench before one of the plants very young. We do a soil drench on. So as we apply it, it holds more. It will bond. It will stay there. That fertilizer won't leach out. Fertilizer leaches out very quickly out of the soil. This magnesium nanoplatelet helps to hold that. It also helps to hold the stinking deer repellent. Well, it does stink, man, I'm telling you. But it bonds to it also. So we see that, like, I've got a field full of watermelons that are not getting destroyed by deer. I don't know if you guys know how our biggest pest is deer when it comes to growing watermelons, cantaloupes, because they'll just go in and take their paw and or their hoof, they'll bust one open and just start eating. That's how they do it. And it's right around maturity time too when they do that. All right, so I want to go back to that bottom one there. 65% yield increase. Now, so I told you a while ago we had about a 400% yield increase in our peppers. Why is that? Because that pepper continuously produces until the frost kills it. And if we're in a temperate climate, it's going to keep producing no matter what. I mean, that one plant could have a stalk that big on the bottom of it. Who knows how much it could really produce? We've not tested in a greenhouse environment to see how long, done a 365-day test on it, because we really just don't know. We don't have that ability here. I'd love to see that test. I'd love to have it in the jungle with Allie, and so she could test it and see what it'll do down there.
Send it down.
So I wanted to show you guys this slide, and this is about all the getting into the science of it that I'm going to do. All right. So if you look at these Petri dishes here, day 0, the top, the fungi isolated from a downy mildew. Downy mildew is a very common problem for us. All right. It was from infected pumpkin leaves, and it was placed in the center of each plate on the top image. All right. So the downy mildew was introduced to those 2 Petri dishes. All right. Day 1, they added water. To the left, they put MgOH2 added to the right. So when they put the water in on day 1, that process started. By day 21, this is showing on the left, bottom left, that's the fungal growth in 21 days on that Petri dish. All right. The one on the right, what do you see? Nothing. So we prohibited that downy mildew from growing in that Petri dish by just adding the magnesium to it. 21 days of growth. Now, 21 days on your plant, that's a lot of growth, and it will cover. When moisture hits it and that spore pops loose, it is all over your plants. It is a problem in not only farming, but the container ornamental industry, the annual growers. That we all fight this problem, especially this time of the year. So I wanted to really show you guys what we got here. This product is incredible for keeping down these fungal growths and pretty much ridding them. We used to use the term inoculating the plant I just call it treating it now. We used to say we would inoculate it with the magnesium, and we would prevent these things from happening. And we can aid in the problem with pest in the manufacturing process without going too deep into it. We can add some things into it, some essential oils actually that will kind of keep the pest off of things. Because of that monolayer bonding, that essential oil bonds to those platelets, and then we can keep it on there longer than we could if we were just trying to spray it. All right. We also use NutriPlant AG643. It's naturally balanced foliar applied nutrition. The nitrogen is 6%, 4% phosphate, 3% potash. Includes sulfur, boron, cobalt, copper, iron, magnesium, molybdenum, and zinc. It's designed for a foliar application for rapid nutrient uptake. All right. Enhances the age, the plant vigor, fruit set, and recovery. Increases tolerance in heat, drought, cold, insects, and disease. Proven to increase yield and quality. All right, so we've got two products that we combine, and both of them have the same characteristics, all right? And they complement each other very, very well. What does NutriPlant not have in it? Magnesium. So with the addition of this magnesium to it, what it already wants to do, as Hope can attest to, she sprayed just the NutriPlant on her dead plant and brought it back to life. And we've done that 1,000 times on our plants, brought them back to life. We don't have a slide of it, but I stress treated, or I stress tested one of that same pepper that you saw, the big pepper. I stress tested that plant 7 days without water, and it looked like it was dead. And it had been treated, but I mean, if you don't get water for 7 days, most plants are dead in heat that was in the 80s, high 80s, low 90s. I brought that plant back by just watering it, and 21 days later, on the other picture we used to show, you can see that fruit, and that's the fruit that I let set to get to that massive size. So that says a lot. The NutriPlant, same thing. If it'll bring a dead plant back from, to life, it speaks volumes on what these two can do together. Now, we're adding, in our mixture, we're adding calcium to it, which neither one of these has in it. So that helps us now with our blossom end rot problem that we have. We did in our watermelons, we have just gotten blossom end rot on the Charleston Grays, and it's really starting to hit and set in with all this rain we're having. So when I get done here, I have to go and spray them, and I got to get my calcium back from Doc here, and I will treat them at that point with this whole mixture. But anyway, yeah. So introducing that calcium to the mix is really and it's typically a calcium deficiency, and sometimes over nitrate, putting too much nitrogen to it, but it enhances that calcium. It all boils down to a calcium deficiency. Then there's another product that is commercially available. It's called Advancing Ego Agriculture Photomag is the name of it. It's got some trace elements in it. Doc's been doing some testing on that. He could probably tell you a little bit more about it. As far as the comparability with the magnesium nanoplatelets, I don't see any. We took some of the watermelons that were treated with this, and we set them side by side with the ones that we treated with our product, and I wound up having to spray our product on them because it was because of the drought stuff. We were going to lose them if I didn't. This is a liquid fence deer and rabbit repellent. It's commercially available. You can get it at pretty much any feed and seed store. You can get it at Tractor Supply, Lowe's, places like that. Now, it smells awful, but it's very safe. It's eco-friendly. The ingredients: nourish leaf tissue and support foliar health. It's long lasting when it's mixed in with this magnesium. That odor, don't get it on you. Don't get it on you. It's like trying to get a skunk off of you. So we use it. We've really like it. It really works. It's not the cheapest product, but we have noticed that once you get the deer kind of knowing that it's there, you can cut way back on the from what they recommend. All right, I'm going to turn it over now to Jennifer. She's going to tell you a little bit about the NutriPlant AG, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
All right.
Love the watermelon. That was great. I'm going to go through this part really hard because really fast, because I was thinking what we need to do now is have action items, because it's July 4th weekend. I had a feeling we would have a lower crowd this week because I had people that were going to be on the Zoom and they're like, wait, I'm out of town. So, but after this, we're really growing the community out there. And so I want to just throw out some action items for people just to work on, after leaving here today, just have some action items, getting ready to go. So NutriPlant AG, I just want to give you the background on it and talk to you about the community a little bit, because it's really kind of what I'm focused on. NutriPlant comes from, of course, the Amway Corporation, which most of you know has been around for about 70 years. They're getting older and older. It's kind of amazing, but the point of being in business, right? It's great. So believe it or not, Amway actually, the founders and owners of Amway started in what's called Nutrilite, which was started in 1939. So they actually, in like the 40s and 50s, actually sold this product as network marketing before network marketing was a thing. It was just word of mouth advertising from neighbor to neighbor. That's really how they got started. So the neat thing about Nutrilite is it is the largest company of supplements and of supplement products in the world. It's actually the largest in the world. They own all of their own farms. They harvest all of their own products. It's all organic and pharmaceutical grade. And they have something called NutriCert. And basically what that means is, if you have, I have some supplements with me today, which I meant to bring one up with me, but when you have one of the supplements, you can give them the SKU number on the back and the on the bottom of the bottle or whatever you have, and say, can you tell me about this product? They can tell you the field it came out of, the products that are in it. They can tell you the fields that they came out of and the date they were harvested. So their traceability goes literally back to the soil. So it's pretty amazing. As Robert was talking about, we want to make sure that what we're putting in our bodies is high quality, because that is what helps us to be healthy. Also, Nutrilite on all of their products that you take as personally, not the NutriPlant obviously, but the Nutrilite products that you take personally, they have a patented product on all of the pills that breaks down extremely fast in your system. And you can actually see the difference between like our multivitamin compared to something from GNC. And the GNC will literally sit there for 7 hours. So when somebody tells you you're wasting your money taking vitamins, a lot of times it is actually true. It is. But with Nutrilite, you can actually see it break down in 30 minutes in water. An entire pill will completely break down. So that's the quality that you're getting. So that's what's behind NutriPlant. That's the mindset. That's their philosophy. It's all about having healthy soil. And so when you're using NutriPlant, just understand that's where that's coming from. I think I can press play. You guys are amazing.
I would say that sustainable and organic farming are definitely the hardest form of agriculture. We consider the farm a living organism, so everything we do on the farm matters. Our goal is to grow healthy, nutrient-rich plants and to give back to the land by feeding it what it needs. Amway's farming practices incorporate a farming system where we don't use pesticides or herbicides or any synthetic chemicals on the farm. But there's quite a bit more to it. It's really the farm as a whole. We're constantly trying to improve our soil and our soil health and put nutrients back into the soil. Some of our ingredients originate from plants, and each plant has different needs. So depending on what the plant needs determines where we grow it. We have farms in Brazil, El Perico, Mexico, and also 2 different farms in Washington State. We also work with partner farms that share our sustainable philosophy. And this is through our NutriCert program. All of these farms are placed in these different locations because they have different topography, different climate, and allow us to grow the best plants for our products. Over the last few years, we've intentionally increased our regenerative agricultural practices. We're constantly trying to improve our soil health. In order to do this, it's more than just farming organically. It's making sure you're improving it year after year. We track every step of the process. Everything we do on the farm is traceable, from planting all the way through harvesting and eventually sending the plant off for final processing. I think for me, farming really allows me to work with the plants in harmony with nature. I think by incorporating regenerative farming, we are starting to think differently. We want to show that what we end with is more than what we started with. We're creating a sustainable future for the next generation.
Bottom left. Right there. I'm learning. Thank you. I love showing that video every time, mainly because I think it really incorporates what we're always talking about right here, which is all of that regenerative farming, the community giving back. And so for us, you know, I specialize in small business, medium business, business building. I've consulted with people on starting businesses and networking. The thing to me about networking is that it's the power of the community. And really the thing about networking is you're actually reaching out to other people to see how you can help them fill a need. So it's not about you, although you will grow your own business. It's about how you can help other people and create a community. And so what we've created with our community has lasted, I mean, really starting with my father and mother-in-law, who you've seen here. And I will tell you, those two continue to get out every day, moving and grooving, and they have been on Amway's NutriPlant or Nutralights, NutriPlant, that'd be funny if they took that, Nutralights multivitamins and stuff literally for 60 years. It's pretty amazing. So those two just keep going. If you saw all of the people that I see that are legacy business owners in Amway, Buck can attest to this, who are in their 80s and 90s and are not on medication and are moving. We went to an event and they were coming through the airport faster than I was. And one of the guys is 90. It's about this high. And he's like, I'm beating you, Deaton. He's just flying by. And I was like, geez. But it's really amazing. The community literally is about health, wellness, promoting other people's financial health. We're always promoting people's financial health. And so to me, we want to really promote this community because this is an incredibly important community with farming, agriculture, and your health. So that's really what I specialize in, is helping you build community. And so what I'm going to give you is some action items. I've already gone through some of this already. I think that's my last slide. Yeah. So what I wanted to just give you is just a couple of action items when you leave here, because we've been meeting together and doing things, and here's what you need to do. If you want to actually be able to build a business with us and market the products, NutriPlant, all of these different products, feel free. You can get a number. It's free to get a number, to get a computer number and be part of the network. That's not a problem. It's free. You'll have your own website. You can promote the NutriPlant on that website, and that's free as well. There's no monthly fee for any of that. But the next action item is to get a kit that's here today and take it with you and go start talking to people in your community. So whether it's people who grow, it doesn't have to be huge farms. I've already been talking to the guy across the street from us or down the street from us that runs a small winery. He's got a small winery, and I think this would be great for him to try. Have them try this as a test market for them and see how it goes for them. We're not really at the point, especially with the Nano, that we can just full on sell everything as, you know, as this farming product, but you can sell it as a test thing for them. And don't be afraid to charge them for it. I paid this for it, you know, just buy it from me. It's no big deal, but get out and really talk to people. So I also talked to another person. well, I have news about another person, but I'll tell you guys that privately. So I just talked to a lady who does gardening, like big gardening. She grows flowers and takes it to the farmer's market and all that stuff, and she is very excited about this. So I said, well, when I come today, I'll make sure I get a couple of kits so I can then, sell them to other people because they're very interested. And so I've also talked to them about we're growing a community of people who want to really establish in their own community regenerative farming and reclaim that back from what I say big ag. You don't have and here's the other good news. Invite them to the Zoom. They don't have to come with you here if it's hard for them to do. You can bring them here. I really want to have at least 2 people with me next time I come. But invite them on the Zoom if they can't come, or host a Zoom meeting if you can't come. Host one at your house or somewhere nearby that you can have people come and watch the Zoom. Because the other thing that we have is you can be a layperson like me who kills almost everything green that comes across her path, but put this on it and like Hope said, we have resurrected plants back to life. It's pretty amazing. So, but just invite them to come on the Zoom and understand that they're going to get really professional and knowledgeable people like Dr. Brandon and Scotty and people in here who have done all of this and can answer your questions. So to me, part of growing that community is also understanding that lifting up the knowledge they have and sharing what they have with other people is really important for what you want to do in your own community. So I hope that helps all of you. I'm trying to make it short today, but I really want action items to kind of get started when it comes to growing this group, because I think we're really at a good precipice where it's going to explode. So, so I hope that you understand that, and I hope that's been helpful. If you need help from me at all when it comes to getting involved in the network and promoting, getting your number and all that kind of stuff, just let me know. But that's it for me. Oh, so if you want to see how the actual business works, we do every first and third. Yeah, first and third Thursdays, one of us shows how the business plan works in about 20 minutes. So tonight at 8 o'clock. Oh, 7 Central. 7 Central. Don't get me confused with this stuff. The entire time I'm driving here, I'm like, what time is it now? Wait, what time am I here? It's hilarious. So yeah, so 7 Central tonight, we have somebody showing that business plan. And basically we have people all over the country that I put in a spreadsheet and like, you're showing the plan tonight, so they show the plan. But anyway, it's businesses kind of everywhere.
Jennifer, if we all pitch in and give the money to you, you buy Dr. Brandon a cat like yours.
Yay, America. I love America. Yes, I would. I'll get it for him all by myself. I don't mind. I don't know about y'all, but I'm loving. So the funniest thing is I was talking to somebody yesterday about all the soccer stuff that's happening because I'm having to drive through a lot of that traffic. And I said to this guy, he's from Trinidad, and I said, yeah, Americans aren't really into soccer, but we're all about the people. Like we love people coming from all over the place, getting, trying the food. I had no idea that barbecue was going to be such a huge thing for these people. I had no idea. And huge, what was the other one? The endless drinks or something. But I always say to my husband, I'm like, I love being, first of all, I will tell you, I love being a female in the United States of America because quite frankly, women have never been safer or more free in human history than they are in a place like this. And so I think when people come here, they get really excited. So anyway, so I'm going to get him a hat. It might have more sparkles. Yeah. All right. Thanks, y'all.
The official 360 Living Soil Alliance hat.
Yeah.
I won't go through this. There's a couple things I want to tag on. So she said this a different way. This is community. This is about community. Obviously, you can team up with us, blah, 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 all that good stuff. We're looking for more stewards. So this is kind of getting this thing finalized. Gardening kits. So we need more people to test, and we're going to have be available the first part of September. The next meeting, September the 3rd here, we'll have, if you want to pre-order, we're going to have several options, and there's a little handout there that some of it's got edited this morning a little bit more, but we're going to have test kits where you can get a small, a medium, or a large. A large is 2 flats of transplants, a medium is 1 flat, and then a small is just 6 plants, but they're duplicated. So there's a treated and untreated. So we want you guys to get them and plant them and see what happens. And it comes with the product, and the large size comes with some consultation time as well. So, but there's a handout there for that. So that's coming up. Next meeting's here August 6th, and then September 3rd, and then July 16th and August 20th at Southern Prep. We do have some sites up. If you go to if you Google 360 Living Soil Alliance on YouTube channel, it's got all the previous presentations and lots of white papers and blah, blah, blah. So that's another good way. There's a bunch of stuff on there though. I mean, it's not fully loaded, but there's lots of evening activities for you, if I'll say it that way. So yeah, they're really good. So yeah, just, there's so many resources now. If you just Google regenerative agriculture, or like, I want a good book to read about regen ag, I mean, it just pages and pages. I haven't watched The Bullish Farmer, but I might watch that one in the next week or so. Thanks for putting that on there. But yeah, we'll have the new groundswell, the one at the bottom of the page. We're going to do a preview here probably in late August here at Newwater. That'll be a community event. That's going to follow Kiss the Ground and Common Ground. It's more global in nature. You don't have to wait for them to watch it. It just came out June the 4th. It's a really, very, very well done. It's got these guys. Got Will Harris. I don't know if Joel Salatin was on the new one. Gabe Brown's in there, but there's some good podcasts if you want to watch it. But yeah, there's the 360 Living Soil YouTube channel, and it's got a lot of these links to these things here. Lots of good books, TED Talks. There's Allie and Mackie's email address. There's mine at the bottom. You can always do that if you want to take a picture of the little QR thingamajiggy that gets you going. Facebook, there's a Facebook. Guys, join up with that because there's lots of information on Facebook as well. Living Soil Alliance. And check out, here's Allie's project, Enduring Empathy Project. That looks like a pretty cool little place to live, doesn't it?
It's hot.
Yeah. Yeah, she's doing a lot of really, really great work down where she's at. So yeah, we if you can help support Allie, it'd be great. So there's her website there. We've shared some of our stuff. So thanks so much for coming today. Exciting times. Good time to be alive. Good time to be growing. Good time to be farming. Something new every week from the government. It's a good thing. I mean, big grant came out yesterday for fertilizer production expansion. They're going to give 100 grants away. So good stuff like that. So yeah. Bobby Kennedy continues to ruffle feathers in a good way, so it's all good. Let me tell you, as an aside, I learned something this past week that just blew my mind, and this is a confession. And some of my weakness is forming opinions and not really fact checking. But I'm building relationships with some guys in the ag departments at Auburn University, and I was always skeptic of the university system because they're so beholden to big pharma and big ag for grants. And so I called my new friend, who's the department head at the soil science department at Auburn. And I said, Dr. Haig, I just want to ask you a question. I said, what's Auburn's stance on regenerative agriculture? Pause. And he said, we've been doing this for the last 9 years before it was even cool. And they actually have dedicated faculty for regenerative agriculture in the soil science department. They got a new guy, and he will be an upcoming speaker at one of our gatherings. But he said, oh yeah. And he goes, I hate fertilizer companies. He said that in another meeting. So Auburn, and I said, well, nobody knew this. And he said, yeah, we don't market it very well. I'm like, well, you need to market it. You need to ramp up your marketing. And how can our network help you? And he said, we'll talk. So that's on the horizon of becoming more helpful to Auburn and what they're trying to do. I mean, they're trying hard to help the farmers and help us as the consumers of food. And it's just nobody knew about it. I didn't know. And I went to bed that night just feeling, I slept the whole night. That has always bothered me. Why is our land grant college, and that was my mistake to put that bias on them, but they're really doing a good thing. And there's a mounting momentum in the research space. We got to figure out a better way, and we don't need to wait for another crisis to come along.
You were close for the Southern Preparatory Academy as an 1898 project.
Yeah, so Southern Prep are one of our partners here and also host these meetings. Returning back to their origins of 1898 with Dr. Lyman T. Ward, who worked with Booker T. Washington in the education space to teach young men skills and agricultural benefits, not just for them, but for their communities. And so the really short story is they went to a military academy, a form school, and then they're back to chapter 3, which is to return back to chapter 1. So 300-acre site, we're helping to advise them to get that back into production and ag, but also to develop a STEAM. Most places have STEM centers now, so science, technology, engineering, and math. They've added the arts and agriculture and aviation, so they have a STEAM center. So there's a long 50-year plan to build that. They're just, 12 miles down the road? And so they're looking really hard at adopting a lot of this, not just for themselves, but for the communities and the young minds that they train to send out into the world. So it's happening, y'all. It just you're alive for a really good reason. And as my former pastor said, God's not done with you yet because you're not dead. So and the other saying is we're going to start small, but we're going to start now. So little things like this, it's creating a great momentum in our cultures. And here at New Water, we're helping folks plant gardens and grow good food, and we're going to pass it off to Leo now. He's going to serve us some great fresh food source from 15 feet from here? Yeah. So yeah. So thank y'all so much. Great meeting today. I always learn something new every single time I'm with y'all. So appreciate you very much. And we're going to get it done. So give us a few minutes, Leo. Put the lunch out, and then we'll dive in and eat. So yeah, take a break. Thank you guys for joining us on the Zoom today. Allie, thank you so much as always, and we'll be talking soon.
Yes, you all have a great day.